This video is sponsored by Ollny. Hey everyone, welcome back to Reissued. If you're new here, my name is Andrew. Today we are decorating for Halloween. Now, as much as I love autumn is my favorite season, I want to feel cozy and festive. I find that these days time is passing by so quickly that I don't feel like I really have the time to be that person that spends forever decorating for seasonal holidays. So my goal here today is to do this quickly, to do it for cheap, and to use what I have on hand whenever possible. And along the way, I'm going to be sharing some tips for making your space feel festive without spending a lot of money or a lot of time. I do have some thrifted items that I found that I think are going to be really cool, but other than that, I just want to go around the house, go around my yard, and see if we can pull something together. Don't really know what that's going to look like yet, but let's find out together. Happy Halloween! Okay, so just for some context here, I did do a Halloween video last year. That was my first time decorating for Halloween. So I did establish a kind of Halloween world for myself that was kind of like witchy, apothecary, swamp vibes. Nothing about it necessarily screamed Halloween, but it was just kind of spooky. And then I threw some lights on it at night that made it feel a lot more Halloween. So as we add to our Halloween decor, I'm gonna be thinking a lot more about lighting and adding different lighting sources and that kind of jack-o'-lantern spooky look, I think. So let me take you out on the porch and show you what we're starting with. Okay, so here we are out on the porch, which is going to be like the sole focus of my Halloween decor. I don't really care that much about having Halloween decor inside with me, but a lot of people in my neighborhood really like to decorate for Halloween, and so I want to be a part of that and project that out into the neighborhood. So out here on the porch, my first tip for you is to embrace what you're starting with. So we haven't really touched the porch at all since we did the little refresh back in the spring. And so my plants are still looking pretty good, but everything is covered in spider webs. I swear spiders are taking over my life inside and out, but it's Halloween, bitches, so we're gonna embrace that. On the day that I'm filming this, yesterday was my birthday, and I was thinking a lot about my goals for this new year of my life. And one of the things that I was thinking about is kind of further letting go of my need for perfection. I am a perfectionist. That's part of what makes me good at what I do, but it also makes me crazy. So 32-year-old Andrew would have wanted to power wash and get everything perfect before we decorated. 33-year-old Andrew is saying, screw it. We're starting with what we have. So I think the first thing that I'm going to do here is just pull out some of the decor that I already have, pull out some of the new items that I'm thinking about, see how everything works together before I spend a lot of time making over any of the items that are new. I want to make sure they're going to work first, and then we can kind of establish a plan of how we want to move forward. Tip number 2 is to lay everything out before you go shopping, before you do any work, any thrift upcycles. Go ahead and take a look at where everything is gonna go to get a sense of what you already have to work with, what you might need still, and what new elements are gonna help tie everything together. Okay, so last night I finished laying everything out, and I think I have a pretty clear plan of how I want to move forward. Some things are still a little bit up in the air, but I was able to do some shopping and fill in some of the elements that I needed. So the plan here is as follows. Across the front, I want to do this kind of archway with some of the branches and vines that I found across the street. I think we can secure everything in place mostly with twine. We'll see. With the hanging elements, I picked up 2 more hooks so that we can hang one of the ferns on the other side and hang these lanterns that I already had. I got some chain at the REISSUED so that we can hang this a bit lower. For additional fun, spooky lighting, I picked up this skull for $10 at the REISSUED, I think, and these 2 pumpkins for $4 each. The skull already has a battery-operated light in it, so we're gonna go with that. On the pumpkins, they're plug-inable, but I'm thinking I wanna place them on the steps, so I'll have to find some battery-operated candles to go in here instead. That one's still on the to-do list. With all three of these, they're looking super plasticky and I hate that. So we're gonna see if we can paint these to look more like stone or terracotta or something, I think. Similarly, I got these little skeleton garlands at the REISSUED for 50 cents each, I think. I got 3 of them and I don't love that they're tied around their necks with twine. I think we can do better. I think these would be really amazing in like a gold finish to look like metal and maybe hanging from a chain instead. So I'm gonna see what I can do with that and where that might go. I also have some really cool spiderweb lights from Ollny that are gonna go on the outside of the porch to give a little bit more spooky light and presence from a distance at night. And finally, for the styling on the front table, I pulled out a bunch of stuff that I have, different cloches, different candles, candlesticks. I'm not really sure what I want to do here this time, so I've pulled out all the options, and once we get a little bit further along, I'm gonna see what looks best. So now that we have kind of a plan, let's get to work. At the top of the stairs, I thought about using the tension rod trick that I've seen everywhere over the past couple years to create a sort of archway with draping vines and leaves. I think people do this a lot more for Christmas, but I thought, why not Halloween? However, I found that a few large branches secured to the post with twine served to create the structure to support the rest of the vines and leaves. So no need to spend the extra money on a tension rod. Tip number 3 that I think applies to almost any season is to use natural materials from around the yard or the neighborhood. I went scavenging last year for Halloween to make the little terrarium under the cloche, and I did the same this time, pulling branches and vines from across the street and ivy vines from my parents' yard. Not only is this totally free and eco-friendly, but it can be tossed out at the end of the season, so no need to store it all year. I got this light chain at the REISSUED for $2. My dad opens up the links using 2 screwdrivers in opposite directions. After we decide on a length, we remove the extra links and hang the lantern. I hang the lantern and the other fern on the other side, drilling holes with the masonry bit since I'm drilling into hardy plank, and hanging 2 new hooks to mirror those on the other side of the porch where I attached them last spring. I like the symmetry this is giving, and I'm sure I can use these hooks for many seasons. Okay, so next up we're going to start creating that moody nighttime Halloween vibe with some spiderweb lights from Ollny, which is the sponsor of today's video. I have worked with Ollny multiple times on my channel. I've done 2 Christmas videos with them. I love their cluster lights for holiday. I hope I get to feature those again for you this year. They also sent me the string lights that are around my porch currently that I added during the porch refresh back in the spring. And today we're adding these very spooky spiderweb lights, which feel very appropriate for my overly spiderwebbed house right now. We're going with it. These are their web lights in the purple shade. They have an attachment point at one end and then they kind of stretch out like a net, and then you can put stakes into the ground to hold them in that stretched out shape. So we're going to be putting one on either side of the porch, attaching it up where the other lights are attached, and then stretching it down toward the ground. The ground is super hard, so we're using a drill to help us get a hole going so that we can get the spikes put in to hold these in place. As with all of the Ollny string light products that I've used, they come with a remote control, so they're super easy to operate, to turn on and off. They also have 8 modes, so they can flash, they can twinkle. Anything you need them to do, they can do it. I'll probably be basic as always and just have them be on, but you have options there. But yeah, I'm super excited about these, and I'm also really excited because all the products that I've used from Ollny in the past hold up really well over time. So I have no doubt that these will be a part of my Halloween decor from years to come, and I'm really excited to see how these look at night. If you want to check out these Ollny spiderweb lights, I am going to link them down in the description box below, so go check them out. Alright, my next tip here is to make your plastic fantastic. Obviously, if you're at the thrift store and you're seeing something that's real terracotta or ceramic or glass, those are going to be preferable materials to plastic. However, a lot of seasonal decor that you find, whether in a big box store or at the thrift store, is going to be plastic, and we can't have that. So obviously, one of the best ways to change up the look of plastic is to give it a coat of spray paint. On some of these pieces, I did spray them first with a bonding primer to help my paint adhere. I'm not sure that was really necessary. I don't know that I really noticed a big difference between primed areas and unprimed areas when I got to painting these, but I did it just to be safe. However, keep in mind that so many spray paints have primers built into them these days, so I don't often prime when I spray things now. And it's seasonal decor, so it doesn't have to last very long, and we can always touch it up next year. Now, several of the finishes that I'm trying to achieve here could be achieved with spray paint, but again, I'm trying to work with what I already had on hand, so if I had a spray paint that worked, I'm going with that. But otherwise, I'm going to be using latex paint or craft paint or whatever else I have on hand that would work for this, just because I have a lot of paint to work through already, and because spray paint can get kind of expensive if you go out to buy a bunch of different colors and finishes. For my jack-o'-lanterns, I wanted the cheap plastic finish to look like terracotta. There are a million ways to achieve this, and every single one of them I think has been tried on the internet. This has been a big trend over the last year of like recreating the Pottery Barn terracotta jack-o'-lantern things. I don't know, I think it looks pretty cool and I want to do it too. Using what I had on hand, I am painting these in a latex paint sample of the shade Spiced Cider from Bear. Matt got a bunch of different red-orange paint samples from when we did the shoji screen in his bedroom, so anytime I need a red-orange paint, I got it on hand already. As I go, I experimented with mixing the paint with baking soda to achieve a more pottery-like finish. Again, I saw other people do this online. I think it would have worked better if I had fully mixed the paint into the baking soda rather than kind of dabbing and going like I'm doing here. However, I didn't really want to pour the paint out and then not use it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if this was worth it anyway, but it was fun to experiment. These definitely took 2 coats to achieve an opaque finish. After the paint was dry, I decided to try washing them with a mix of warm water and garden lime, the same as I used on my terracotta lion head in my kitchen last year to give the natural terracotta finish some of that powdery white buildup. I drenched the pumpkins with the brush and left them to dry, applying another layer later to achieve the effect I was looking for. Brush off the excess, and I think these look pretty convincing. Now, let's tackle our skeleton garlands. I removed them from the twine already since that was not the look I wanted, and now I'm going to paint them gold for kind of a metal finish. I'm spraying them first with a gold spray paint that I honestly don't like. I've had this on hand forever because it's just not very metallic. So I'm going to go over them again with Rub and Buff in the gold leaf shade to see if I can get a more metallic look. Now, even though it seems like the first layer of paint was a waste since I'm rub and buffing over the top of it, my next tip here is to layer up your finishes. On every single plastic piece in this video, I'm applying multiple layers and mediums to achieve the layered effect I want. In this case, that first coat of gold mostly just saved me time. I could painstakingly brush Rub and Buff into every crevice, or I could zip on a coat of spray paint and then brush the more metallic finish only onto the highlights. The effect is subtle enough that you won't really tell the difference, and we really want the more metallic parts on the highlights anyways to give that dimension. No need to buy multiple products if you don't have to, but if you have it on hand, layer up for ease and for achieving a more complex look. On that note, I'm layering these up one more time with the watered down burnt umber acrylic paint, pushing it into all the cracks and wiping off the excess on the high points with a paper towel to achieve an aged metal effect. It's subtle, but it adds more dimension. And finally, I'm heading out into the yard to get some dirt to mix with my paint to paint the skull. I told you the ground here was firm. Here, I'm mixing together white and black acrylics for a gray shade with the dirt mixed in for texture. I want this skull to look kind of like aged stone. The dark gray base shade that I sprayed on earlier will still show up in the deepest cracks as long as I brush mostly over the high points. I also started stippling my brush a lot to achieve a more speckled finish like stone or concrete would have. As I go, I add in more shades of burnt umber, green, and yellow to warm up the look and add a bit of an algae look to this. I was definitely taking note of the stone on the front steps of my house. For the final touches, I paint the skull in place to try to achieve a similar look to the real stone underneath. It's not perfect, but 33-year-old Andrew is over it, so let's move on. Finally, I glue on some moss to give a spooky graveyard vibe that is also stunningly gorgeous. I'm trying to concentrate the moss into the deepest grooves and also kind of over the top, mimicking how I've seen moss grow naturally. This is moss that Matt harvested and preserved. I wanted him to show us how to do this, but I don't have time for anything anymore, so we're going with pre-preserved moss. After I glue it down, I go in with scissors to trim the edges a bit shorter and to blend them into the rock look, and also to cut any hot glue gun threads. Which brings me to tip number 6. If you're using a glue gun, which you should be, we love using a glue gun. I feel like it smells like holiday season to me because that's when I do all of my crafting. But when you use a glue gun, you gotta cut the threads or else everyone's gonna know that you used a glue gun and that just seems cheap. Yeah, so cut your threads. While we have the glue gun out, let's touch up our moss wreath from last year and glue the head back on this skeleton. Oops. Okay, let's finish up the styling. First, I'm popping my faux terracotta pumpkins in place. I did end up using the included plugs and bulbs since we were running power to the Ollny lights anyway, so that worked out great. Matt has a real plant in the original glass cloche that went with this terrarium piece that I made last year, so I'm popping it up on the base of this foam pot that I found in the trash across the street months ago, and I'm placing this newer, huge glass cloche from the REISSUED over the top. I'm using a bit of plumber's chain that I had left over from picture hanging to drape over the mirror and attach our little skeletons. I could wire these on, but I'm just hooking them over the top instead. I think there are so many different ways to use these little skeletons, so I'm kind of glad that I didn't commit to using them in any one way. And on that note, let's put some on the wreath as well. For the table, I decided on a couple of the spookier pieces from the living room built-ins, adding some brass candlesticks with black candles. After trying out tons of options, I decided that the chic black and gold was a nice contrast to the kind of more witchy, spiderwebby vibes that we have going on. These are all decor pieces that I had and love already, so I guess my spookier side pays off this time of year. I got this little metal pumpkin candle holder at Goodwill for $4, like right after Halloween last year, and I'm adding some battery-operated candles to my lanterns. Finally, I'm placing these 2 metal pumpkins from Goodwill on the rail to balance the wire pumpkin man on the other side of the porch. These were $7 and $13, I think. A couple real candles that I had on hand, and the styling is ready to go. Okay, so I'm finishing up the styling here, and my final tip is that anything can be spooky if you light it right. So last year, I used a couple of these outdoor solar spotlights. I used them to light up the portrait that I have on my front porch from my Thrifted art video ages ago, and to light up the wire snowman / pumpkin man that I thrifted at the REISSUED last year for $15. I love this piece because it's simultaneously so jolly and also sinister, but the real tip here is that if you light anything from underneath, it is going to give you that like spooky Halloween feeling, kind of like the flashlight under the face around the campfire kind of vibes. So my parents lent me a couple more of these lights. I'm gonna light up the little concrete sculpture goddess that I have down on the front step. I think she'll be really spooky lit from below. During the day, this does give the swamp witch kind of apothecary vibes, but at night I want to light this up with a lot of really vibrant colors, some Halloween colors, so that we can make the transition from day to night really dramatic, but also really project that Halloween vibe out into the community, but still keeping it within my style during the daytime as well. Alright everybody, I can't wait to show you how the porch turned out. I'm really proud of how this product went, kind of in trusting the process and working with things that I had already. I spent very little money on this, which is amazing. I feel like that's how it should be for Halloween decor. But on that note, my final thought here is that if you have a chance to do some sort of holiday related decor this year, I don't know if it's Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas, I think holiday decor is a really nice way to be kind of present and embrace the season and appreciate it while it's here. Again, I feel like time is going by so quickly, so when I can take a moment to like sit down and hot glue something or like paint a plastic pumpkin, It just feels like it's autumn, it feels like it's Halloween, and something about that feels right. I feel present. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like this, be sure to hype this video and hit the like button. If you want to catch up with my renovation process and see the living room makeover, which is going to be done so soon, be sure that you're subscribed. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon.